What is going on, guys? Today we are gonna go over a Smith machine versus a barbell anything. So comparing the Smith machine to free weights, we actually just got a Smith machine in the mail. So I actually just got it built last night. We're gonna test it out. We're gonna do a bunch of leg training on it. And we're gonna compare free weights to Smith machine training in today's leg day video. Last night, I brought a couple guys in the gym to put together a Smith machine that was all in boxes. They got here, put together. I came in this morning and it is a little bit smaller, or a lot smaller than I expected it to be. I mean, like, you can see the two. I feel like that's normal. I mean, I might squat my head into the bar. I'm still gonna use it. I mean, I think it is actually still pretty good though. I think we'll get some good use out of it. So I'm gonna do almost a full leg day. A couple exercises I'm gonna do today that won't be using this, but I'm gonna do squats on this. I'm going to do some split squats on this. I'm actually gonna try a single leg curl variation on this, but with the rack that I can lean into, it does change some of the center of gravity and allow me to shift my position a little bit and create less need for stability, which helps with hypertrophy, which I'm gonna get into today. Smith machines are awesome, but I'm gonna show you why they work really well for hypertrophy in contrast to a barbell. You'll see my full workout, but before we get into that, we have a couple things to do. We gotta reorganize this gym. We're gonna go hang a sign on the street and hopefully bring people into our parking lot to scan the QR code because they can't actually train in this gym. It's a private gym. Let's get busy. Then you get a nice angle of this shit right here. This is a sample for TLA. Let me grab my keys. World's biggest journal. Check this out, bro. I ordered a journal and look how big it is. Opposite of the Smith machine, massive. The most detailed shit I've ever seen. Every day, weekly reviews, monthly, productivity max. Highly recommend documenting every little tiny aspect of your day, week, month, goals, everything. Your boy's gonna get another sunburn today. I might be the only person in this entire city that YouTubes. You will not find any YouTubers in Buckley. Homeboy definitely didn't make it big enough. What is that? That's the tiniest thing. Why is everything so small? The Smith machine and now the sign? Now I'm like, is it even worth putting up? Is this one any bigger? No. Will you put this on your truck? Give you a raise? All right, gym is set. We restructured some things, moved some things around, should be good for now. We're gonna get into a quad dominant leg day. We are gonna do some Smith machine squats. We are going to do some Smith machine Bulgarian split squats. We'll do a little bit of leg curls and leg extensions. I'm also going to do a RDL as well as a leg curl variation on the Smith machine. So I'm gonna go through a bunch of different exercises strictly on the Smith machine and show you why at times it can actually be more beneficial for muscle growth and hypertrophy than a barbell or any kind of free weight. Let's get changed and let's get training. Tip number one of the video, if you have a squat day, this is a tip from John Meadows, the mountain dog. I still don't know if there's a whole lot of science behind this, but science people agree, strength coaches agree, bodybuilders agree, like it just fucking works. Do leg curls before you squat. Anytime I'm doing a squat dominant movement, like a quad dominant squat, and I want to get a lot of depth, I do leg curls to get a little bit of a hamstring pump. So we're going high rep, light low, just trying to get a pump. We're not fatiguing completely. It's gonna make your knees feel better. It's gonna make your squats get deeper. You're gonna have a little bit more mobility, a little bit more lubrication in the joints, and you're just gonna sit into that squat much better, I promise you. So leg curls come first.
I've been on the road, I've been doing shows. Now we eating steak, remember sleeping on the floor. We're still at the gas station when the time was cold. In the kitchen, hot still trying to...
Quick thing to know about hypertrophy. A muscle is going to grow better when it's in a loaded, lengthened position. So what that means is basically stretch under load. So you can actually do partial ranges of motion and get more than a full range of motion. And part of the reason why a full range of motion is really important for hypertrophy is because a full range of motion includes that lengthened portion. So when you see people doing a leg press and they're doing these little tiny things at the top, that does nothing. But if they were to do it at the very bottom in that quad stretch position, it would do a lot. Nobody does that because it's fucking hard. With a seated leg curl, they actually see better growth than a lying leg curl. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do both, because you should. It's good to have variety in those. You're gonna hit different heads of the hamstrings with either. But when I'm in a seated position, my knees are locked out, and they actually even show you can lean forward and get a bigger stretch, and you can actually grow your hamstrings even more, because at the bottom, I continue to stretch under load. If you're doing a leg extension, you could actually lean back and try to stretch and extend your hip, and you would get more growth on the quads because you're stretching and loading more under that stretch position. Now we are going to get into squats. Normally I'll do like heels elevated squats to keep them quad dominant. If I'm using a free bar, like actual barbell with plates, I'll do heels elevated and let my knees really glide forward. I prefer more than a free weight bar, like just a regular straight bar, to do a safety bar and hold the rack, because then I can just focus on my quads rather than focusing on stability, which is one of the reasons why this is so beneficial. So we're gonna get into some squats. I'm gonna explain some of the benefits of these squats as I do them, but really check my form, because I'm gonna lean into this bar and really kind of rely on the barbell and this Smith machine to make sure that I don't have to worry about core balance, stability, or anything like that. I just wanna load the quads, slow down, lean back into it, create a big, massive stretch on my quads, because again, that loaded position in that stretch position is key, and just bang out a bunch of reps. So we're probably gonna go from like 20 to 15 to 10, and then probably a drop set, do 4 or 5 sets of this in total. Anything over 8 reps is cardio. I think that's what they say. The reason we do this way, and I keep talking about leaning into it and using this and relying on this, a barbell squat requires a lot of trunk stiffness, trunk being your whole entire torso, and stability. So I gotta bend the bar, which is a good habit to have with this too. But as I'm squatting, I also have to keep my core braced to avoid lateral flexion, rotation, flexion of the spine, extension of the spine. You're constantly creating stiffness and stability yourself. That's why it's a functional movement. So it's important. Squatting in general is important, but free weight movements are better for functional capabilities. Smith machine can be great for hypertrophy because I have no need to create that. If I really need to work on trunk stiffness, I'll do some Palloff presses, stir the pot, planks, shit like that to work on core. If I want to build muscle, I'm going to isolate. So I'm not going to do a back squat with a barbell all the time. I'm going to use a leg press. I'm going to use a hack squat. I'm going to use a Smith machine. Or if I want to do a press, instead of doing a standing single arm press where I'm wobbling, trying to create stability, trying to create a lot of counterbalance, I'm going to use something like this, or I'm going to use a bench that supports my back and I have 2 handles. Better yet, a machine. That's why they're great for hypertrophy. That's why bodybuilders use them, because I don't have to worry about instability and create that stability by myself. The fixed machine already giving you that stability, you can just load the muscle and fucking push, which makes it great for hypertrophy. Strength, functionality, barbell all the way. Hypertrophy, Smith machine is pretty fucking good. We're gonna go from the Smith machine squat to some leg extensions. We'll do 3 sets of 12 to 15. What you'll see is I am gonna lean back, so I'm gonna take you through this right now. So what I'm gonna do here is I have my seat all the way back as far as I can go, but you wanna push your seat as far back as you can so I can lean back. If you see it from the side, I'm not in a 90-degree angle where I'm sitting up tall, but rather I'm leaning, so I'm trying to create more of a stretch in that hip flexors. The leg extension is a shortened base movement, which means it's hard to mimic this because at the top, I flex my quads and I'm in extension. I'm squeezing my quad in this shortened position. That's the maximal load. So the best way to manipulate this is to lean back and let your knees flex. And they actually did a study where they made a lying leg extension. So there was no back. They just fucking laid down, which is awkward, but it showed more growth. So best way to mimic that is doing what I'm talking about here. We're gonna do like 12 to 15 reps for 3 sets, some accessory isolation exercises. Then we're gonna go back to the Smith machine for our final quad exercise of the leg day, which will be split squats. Good rule of thumb, reps in reserve, RIR, your proximity to failure. The closer you get to failure, the more hypertrophy is going to happen. The difference between going all the way to failure and leaving 1 in the tank is splitting hairs, and it's not worth the recovery cost of going to failure. But if I'm supposed to do 12 to 15 and I underestimate how much I can do, add reps. Your body, your muscles, they're not smart enough to know this is 15 reps and not 17 reps. Don't always go by the paper. Go by feel, take it closer to failure, even if that means adding some reps. So that next set, you can add weight if needed. The other tip I would give you, when you're doing stuff like this, grab the grips and pull yourself into the bench to create massive tension. And on a leg extension, point your toes in slightly. You're gonna get more of your vastus lateralis, that big outside quad sweep muscle. And some research has actually proven this in studies, that pointing in is a little bit better. So lean forward, let the knees flex, pull yourself on the bench, point your toes in, crank on some reps. We got 2 more sets, and then we're moving on. Bulgarian split squats, little pad to elevate your feet on. Now that I have a gnarly quad pump, I'm gonna do Bulgarian split squat, which is a debatable idea, but this is another great way to utilize the Smith machine because I don't have to focus on balance so much. So if I'm doing a single leg movement, a unilateral movement where normally I have to worry about stability quite a bit, the Smith machine helps quite a bit. So does this because I can just post up and isolate one leg, which is also helpful for anybody who has low back issues, which is a prime issue with most people trying to train heavy legs. If you ever have low back issues, it's gonna be really hard to train heavy with a barbell on your back. Because if I have 200 pounds on my back, that's 200 pounds on my spine, only 100 pounds on each leg. If I do a split squat, that's 100 pounds and 100 pounds, 100 pounds. So I can cut the load in half on my spine and keep it relatively similar on my muscle, which is a really good tip for anybody who has back issues, more unilateral training. But now that we got a pump, a lot of blood flow in the muscles, I'm going to do split squats to stretch the quad as much as possible.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on a roll, here we go, here we go.
So far we have 4 sets of Smith machine squats, 3 sets of leg extensions, and 4 sets of Smith machine Bulgarian split squats. That makes 11 sets total of quad focused work. I wouldn't go over 12. Most research kind of hovers in this 8 to 12 sets per muscle group per session. So I try to stay in that. 12 is like as far as I'll go, and that's like really just murdering a muscle, which is fine, but that's where we start to see this decline in muscle protein synthesis, which is the response your body has, anabolically speaking, to build muscle. We're gonna do seated leg curls again, but now I'm actually gonna overload the muscle. So I'm less focused on leaning forward in that big stretch because right after this, I'm gonna go into Smith machine RDLs. So the idea here is to get a good pump, fill a lot of blood into the hamstrings, kind of focus on the metabolic side of hypertrophy. So metabolite accumulation, metabolic fatigue, really getting a big pump and a lot of lactate and lactic acid in the hamstring itself. Once I successfully pump the hamstrings, I'm gonna move right into a stretch dominant movement where I'm going into RDL, really trying to overload that lengthened stretch position, which is a good way to sequence 2 exercises if we're gonna really try to superset one muscle group specifically.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on a roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor.
That is a wrap. Gonna skip abs today because I gotta go get to the big box gym to do some cardio, but I hope you got a lot out of this video. Remember, there is a lot of golden tips in here. Focus on the loaded stretch, put yourself in positions to actually cause more hypertrophy just by shifting the variation, the tool you're using, or the range of motion that you are actually implementing in that specific exercise. And last but not least, free weights are great, machines are great, Smith machine's great. There is no one best tool or equipment modality out there. It's all specific to your goals. If your goal is hypertrophy, using tools like the Smith machine is probably gonna work in your favor to maximize muscle growth simply because it gives you stability, unlike a free weight where you have to create that stability while you're doing the movement. So I hope you got a lot of this video. If you did, like the video, comment below if you have any questions about the content we just discussed. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get updated every single time we drop a new video, and I'll catch you next time.